Kamala Harris has had a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. First, she mixed up and confused the United States Constitution with the United States Supreme Court. Then a new round of polling came in, which suggests that former President Donald Trump is surging in the polls. In fact, Nate Silver, formerly of 538, released his new probability ratings, which predicts that former President Donald Trump is most likely to win the election if it were held today. And finally, we have our first sneak peek at the long-awaited, highly anticipated CNN interview. But first, we turn to Savannah, Georgia, where protesters got into Kamala's rally and threw her off her game. Take a look.
And across our nation, in addition to that, we are witnessing a full-on assault on other hard-fought, hard-won fundamental freedoms and rights.
So much for unity, right? During the DNC, the Democrats tried to push this message that they were the party of unity, yet there is so much dissent and dissatisfaction within their own party. Don't forget, earlier in this year, during the primaries, even though no one was running against Joe Biden, there was a substantial, almost 20% of the vote in Michigan was uncommitted. And that raises the question, are those people going to sit home on election day? Are these people going to come home to the Democrat Party? It's not guaranteed. And that's something that is probably keeping Kamala Harris and her team awake at night. Meanwhile, Trump and Vance have proven that they are the unity ticket this election cycle. First, they had RFK Jr. endorsing them. Just think about that. A Kennedy endorsing a Republican? Not to mention President Trump specifically. And then they have the endorsement from Tulsi Gabbard. And apparently there are even more high-profile Democrats slated to come forward in the upcoming weeks. Of course, Trump also has Elon Musk, a huge big tech bro. But there's also Mark Zuckerberg. If Mark Zuckerberg continues on the trajectory and the path that he's on, could he become the next Elon Musk and switch political teams? I don't know, but it's looking that way. At least to me it is. So I think it'll be interesting as Kamala does more rallies, whether or not more protesters show up, because it'll really undermine this message of unity that the Democrats are trying to sell. And in fact, there were actually more protesters outside of her rally. Now, it was just a few protesters, but organizers said that they expected a lot more, but that people stayed home because apparently it was raining all day.
You're committing genocide!
Kamala, can't you see?
Palestine!
Okay, so the protesters who did get inside the arena apparently threw Kamala Harris off her game, and she appeared to, she mixed up the United States Supreme Court with the United States Constitution. Let's take a look at how that unfolded.
He even called for termination of the United States Supreme the supreme land of our nation, the United States Constitution.
Okay, so I fully expect Kamala Harris supporters to come to the comments and say, that's not fair. Kamala Harris didn't actually confuse the Supreme Court with the Constitution. They're going to argue that the protester distracted her and threw her off her game. But I'm arguing that that's not what actually happened. You see, my theory is that, yes, the protesters distracted her and threw her off her game, but what we witnessed was probably a Freudian slip. And hang on with me here for a second, because she probably revealed what she and the Democrats want to do. Because if you think about it this way, over the last 4 to 6 years, Democrats have been talking about packing the court. And what would packing the court do? Well, that would essentially destroy it. They are so mad that Donald Trump lawfully and constitutionally got to pick justices and therefore give the court a quote-unquote conservative majority. Well, the court isn't supposed to rule based on ideology or politics. They're supposed to interpret the law. So that right there, I don't even agree with their argument on that. But the Democrats are so angry with this that they've talked about, expanding the court to 11, 12, 13, 15, 20. When does it end? If a Republican gets to put members on the court, the Democrats, they just want to win. And they'll do whatever it takes to have that power. So, just my humble opinion, I think because she was distracted, what we witnessed there wasn't Kamala Harris actually confusing the Constitution and the Supreme Court. I think it was a Freudian slip, and she mixed the two up and referenced the Supreme Court because that's, Democrats have been talking basically about court packing for years now. On top of that, Kamala Harris did what she always does whenever she's heckled, and she attempted to do the girl boss moment of the I'm speaking now, I'm speaking. Well, I think she doesn't even buy her own shtick anymore. I think she's kind of getting bored of it, because if you listen to her delivery, it's a lot more lackluster than it usually is.
Hold up for a second. Let me just say something. We are fighting for a democracy. Everyone has a right and should have their voices heard. I am speaking now, but on the subject, I will say this. The president and I are working around the clock. We've got to get a hostage deal done and get a ceasefire done now.
Okay, so that totally canned and lame line she always uses, I'm speaking, reminds me of the ABC debate, right? So in case you missed it, ABC has now confirmed that they are sticking to the original agreed upon rules. This means that they're going to conduct their debate similar to how CNN conducted it, which means that there will be no hot mics. The mics will be off when the other candidate is speaking, and the Harris campaign is really upset about this. Why? Well, they want Kamala to have that viral moment. They want her to be able to look at Trump and go, excuse me, Donald, I'm talking, I'm speaking now. And they want her to go viral on social media and have that girl boss moment. Because she can't speak on the issues. She can't speak on policy. She needs to stick to her notes. She needs to stick to her script. And so that's why they are so upset that the mics are going to be off. And finally, the last thing I found really interesting about her rally in Savannah is Kamala told her supporters not to pay attention to the polls. That is really curious and really interesting, because usually that's something that the losing candidate says. You say, ignore the polls, we're still going to win, we still got this, or our internal polls are showing something good. When you say ignore the poll, in other words, whenever you're leading in the polls, you usually want to lean into that, right? It's a bragging point. But when you're losing, it's just like, ignore the polls, don't worry about it. And, I get that Trump does that, but there is a difference with Trump and Republicans, and Trump especially, because Trump has overperformed the polls in both elections by anywhere from 4 to 8 points. The polls have always underestimated him. So he actually has credibility to say, you know what, ignore the polls, because he has a track record. He, 2-2, he's overperformed the polls. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is now telling her supporters to ignore the polls, while the vast majority of polls show her in the lead. What does she know that the rest of us don't know? Here's what she said.
This is going to be a tight race until the very end, okay? So let's not pay too much attention to the polls.
Really interesting. What is a lot more interesting than what she said is the timing of it, because just earlier today, Nate Silver updated his probabilities. And according to his new map, or his new probability calculation, Trump wins 52.4% of the time out of all the simulations he's run. He runs about 40,000 simulations a day, and Trump wins 52.4% of those, and Harris only wins 47.3% of those. This is the first time, and if you'll look at this is the first time in over a month that Trump is back in the lead. Now, of course, no single poll it means anything, right? It's just a snapshot in time. And of course, we're still a few weeks out from the election. But what happens is when you look at the aggregate of polls, you can see the trend lines. You can see if a candidate is trending up or trending down. And so the fact that Trump is now peaking at the right moment. And this happened in the first 2 elections too. In the summer, he was way, way, way behind. And then right when he needed to, he started going up and he peaked on election day. So this is great news for Trump's team and really bad news for Harris, especially, again, Trump has always overperformed the polls, and Trump is polling stronger now this week than he did the same week in 2020 and the same week in 2016. Now, Nate Silver also broke it down based on states. So this is, to be clear, the margins, like Pennsylvania, if you look at the Real Clear Politics average, Trump is actually ahead in Pennsylvania. Average, the margin here is the margin over the last month. So this isn't over the last week. I just want to be very clear about that. But what I want you to pay attention to is the change from the last month. So you see that Harris has gained ground in virtually all of these swing states over the last month, which is to be expected because, right, Joe Biden dropped out, the Democrats lost their cadaver, and now they have a warm body, and so they're very excited about that. They're overcompensating with their excitement because again, they have a warm body. But what's most interesting is the change from the last week. While Kamala Harris is up month over month, she's actually down week over week. Trump has gained ground in the last week in Wisconsin, gained ground in North Carolina, as well as Arizona. And the reason the last week metric is so important is because, again, it shows that shift. It doesn't matter if you gained ground 4 weeks ago. What matters is what happens when early voting starts, what happens on election day. So the shift within the last week really shows you how the race is unfolding. Now, one of my favorite things about Nate Silver, because he's all about math, all about probability, is he created this calculation of your odds of winning the election if you win a certain state. And we've put so much emphasis on Pennsylvania because, according to Nate Silver, if Trump wins Pennsylvania, then he has a 93.6% chance of winning the election. Same thing with Kamala Harris. If she wins Pennsylvania, she has a 91.5% chance of winning the election. And so you see the top 5 or 6 most important states. This is listed in order of states that have the highest percentage, the highest likelihood of being the state that decides the election. And here it's Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania it has a 35% probability of being the state that decides this election one way or another. Then it's Michigan, Wisconsin, and then North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, of course, all what you would expect. Now, some of these really are more important for Harris than they are for Trump. For example, if Harris loses Pennsylvania, she virtually has no shot. Whereas if Trump loses Pennsylvania, yes, the probability obviously goes in Kamala's favor, but he still has more paths to 270 than she does. So I think this is a really interesting chart. When we take a look at the Electoral College, I had a commenter on the last video ask, because I had mentioned that the Electoral College seems to favor Republicans, and she disagreed because she was like, well, what about California and what about New York, which always goes a Democrat, and they have, so many delegates. Well, Republicans can still lose the popular vote, but still win the Electoral College. And I thought this was the perfect breakdown that I wanted to share with y'all. Because if Harris wins the popular vote by only 1%, you see the black line in the middle. So the first bar above that, if she only wins the popular vote by 1%, she only has a 10% chance of winning the election. Meanwhile, if she wins the popular vote by 1%, Trump has an 89.2% chance of winning the national election based on the Electoral College. In fact, as long as Harris gets less than 3%, so up to 2.9%. If she wins 2.9% of the national popular vote or less, Trump still has the higher probability of winning. Anything from 1 to 2.9%, Trump has a 68.7% chance of winning the Electoral College. Compare that to below the black line. If Trump wins the popular vote by 1%, his odds of winning the whole thing are at 97.1%. So, most of the polls right now, even on the national average, have Kamala Harris at best 4%, but most of them, the median as well as the average, as well as the mean, seem to be around 2%. So things are still looking good for Trump. And as I explained in my last video, Mark Halperin, who is a great DC insider, still puts, he's predicting that there's more. He's seen the internal polling, and he's predicting that there are more polls coming forward that are going to show Kamala Harris in as bad of shape or even worse than Joe Biden was as soon as the September 10 ABC debate. Now, the recent Pennsylvania numbers, and these are the polls that Nate Silver is weighing, are all in Donald Trump's favor. There hasn't been one that shows Kamala Harris in the lead. Now, if you look at 538 or Real Clear Politics, they include a lot of low-graded polls that either have a bad track record or they maybe did registered voters instead of likely voters. What Nate Silver does is he weights his polls based on their historical accuracy, and then he also prioritizes polls based on likely voter versus registered voter. So you can see here, Trump is doing great in Pennsylvania. In the Poly Market betting averages show Trump winning 50 to 48%. And I get that betting is not the same as poll research, but the people who bet tend to be people who love numbers, love to do analysis, and you're more likely to be serious when you're actually betting your own money, which is why so many people put stock into what the betting markets say, right? Because no one's just going to, sorry, someone's texting me, no one's going to throw $100, $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 to bet for something just based on how they're feeling. If you're going to bet a lot of money on the political betting market, sorry, I just put my notifications on silent. If you're going to bet money on a lot of money, you've probably done your research. It's probably more than just gut instinct. So these people are typically people who have taken a deep dive into the numbers, and that's why so many people put stock into what the betting markets have to say. And in the latest Polymarket swing state odds, Trump is winning Georgia 61 to 39%, winning North Carolina 61 to 39%, Nevada by 10 points, Arizona by 10 points, and then Nevada by 6, Pennsylvania by 2. I mean, this is all great news for the Trump campaign, and Real Clear Politics matches all of this. You know, they're showing Trump Vance at 287 electoral votes, pretty much unchanged for the last few weeks. If the election was held today, they would win pretty handily. Again, 270 being the magic number there. Now, last but not least, we finally have our clip, the first taste of what this CNN interview with Kamala Harris and Tim Walz is going to look like. And keep in mind, we've been waiting for this for a while. She has not done a sit-down interview with the press. She has not taken any serious questions. And now Jason Miller from the Trump team has revealed that he's hearing that CNN is not going to be releasing the full transcript of all 18 minutes. First of all, 18 minutes? We waited and we're not even getting an hour? A half an hour interview, just 18 minutes. They're not releasing the full 18 minutes transcript of the interview, and they're cutting it. They're editing. Remember, this whole thing is pre-taped, which means they're editing it. What are they cutting out? Keep in mind, Trump went on Dr. Phil, did, I think it was like an hour and a half. He's been on podcasts talking for 90 minutes, 2 hours. I mean, podcasters right now are having pretty much unfettered access to former President Donald Trump. And Kamala Harris is too scared to sit down with CNN. I mean, here, let's take a look at this clip. And I think you're going to be astonished at just how bad it is, even though they're trying to do their best to make this as easy as cake for her. As easy as pie, as ice cream. What's the saying? Cake.
Generally speaking, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy?
Okay, I'm going to stop her there because for most politicians, I've watched Dana Bash a lot. For most politicians, she would just ask the question and end there. The reason I'm pausing here is because I want to point out what she does next. So she's asked the question. What she does for Kamala Harris is this is essentially T-ball. She's queuing up the answer for Kamala because she gives her a multiple choice. In other words, she's saying, which is it? Is it choice A? Is it choice B? Is it choice C? So she's asked the question. Now listen to the multiple choice options.
Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time.
Deadlines around time? I mean, aren't all deadlines around time? I mean, isn't that what a deadline is?
We did that with the Inflation Reduction Act. We have set goals for the United States of America and by extension the globe around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed. I spent 2 terms as the Attorney General.
What does the border have to do with climate change? And now she's talking about her experience as Attorney General. By the way, you know, when she locked up innocent black men, I previously did a video of that, showing you guys. I mean, in his own words, Jamal Truelove, an innocent black man, she framed, I'll be very careful with my words, an innocent black man that her office prosecuted, knew he was innocent, and sent him to jail anyways. And that's why he won $13.1 million from the city of San Francisco. So what does all of that have to do with climate change? She's talking about the border, and now she's talking about her experience as Attorney General. What?
Of California, prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, violations of American laws regarding the illegal passage of guns, drugs, and human beings across our border. My values have not changed.
Yeah. And then she tries to bring it back, talking about how her values have not changed. I don't quite think the logic flowed there. It was clear what she was trying to do. I just don't think she did it well. And obviously she's been coached, but it's still a lot of word salad. It'll be very interesting to see what CNN actually shows tonight. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm disappointed. It sounds like it's only going to be 18 minutes, but hey, we'll take what we can get because, I'm surprised that she actually did it. I really thought that she was going to try to pull off Basement 2.0. But as always, all of this is just my analysis, just my opinion, and I would love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Earlier in the video, I referenced Kamala Harris confusing the Supreme Court United States with the, word salad, right? It's contagious. I was thinking about Kamala Harris, and now I'm catching it. Talking about Kamala Harris confusing the United States Supreme Court with the Constitution and thinking that maybe she wasn't confusing them, but it was maybe a Freudian slip. What do you think about that theory? Agree, disagree, or do you think it was something else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask, but it really does help me in the algorithm to reach more viewers like you. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.